Okay, everybody, this is the CEO of SponsorshipSecrets.com. I want to read to you from the Six Flags Cedar merger proposal. These are the regulatory efforts. Under their merger agreement, each of the Six Flags and Cedar Fairs agreed to use their respective reasonable best efforts, subject to certain limitations, take or cause to be taken, all actions to do or cause to be done, and assist and cooperate with the other parties in doing all things necessary, proper, or advisable to consummate and make effective in the most expeditious manner practicable the mergers and the other transactions contemplated by the merger agreement. For more information, see the section entitled The Merger Agreement, Covenants and Agreements, Efforts to Complete the Mergers. Conditions to complete the mergers. The obligations of each of Six Flags and Cedar Fair to effect the mergers are subject to the satisfaction or waiver in whole or in part to the extent permitted by applicable law of the following conditions on or prior to the closing date. The approval by Six Flags stockholders of the merger agreement proposal, the termination or expiration of any applicable waiting period under the HSR Act, the approval of the MFCC under the FLEC is amended, the absence of governmental restraint or prohibitions preventing the consummation of the mergers of the special dividend. The SEC having declared effective the registration statement of which its proxy statement prospectus forms a part in the absence of a stop order or proceedings seeking a stop order. The approval for listing by the NYSE or other agreed upon exchange of the copper steel common stock issuable to the holders of Cedar Fair units and Six Flags common stock in connection with the mergers, subject to official notice of issuance. The representation and warranty of Six Flags relating to the absence of a material adverse effect is defined below since July 2nd, 2023 being true and correct as the closing date. The representation and warranty of the Cedar Fair relating to the absence of a material adverse effect is defined below since June 25th, 2023 being true and correct as the closing date. Certain representations and warranties of the other party relating to capitalization and other equity securities being true and correct as the closing date, except to the extent such representations and warranties expressly relate to a specific date or as of the date of the merger agreement, in which case such representations and warranties must be true and correct in all material respects as of such date, except that any inaccuracies that in the aggregate are de minimis in nature may be disregarded. Certain representations and warranties of the other party relating to organization, standing, corporate power, authority, agreements in respect to equity securities, voting requirements, financial advisor opinions, and brokers, and the representations of copper, steel, and copper mergers sub that are qualified by materiality or material adverse effect being true and correct as of the closing date as though made on the closing date, except to the extent such representations and warranties relate to a specific date or the date of the merger agreement, in which case such representations and warranties must be true and correct as of such date, and why that are not qualified by materiality or material adverse effect being true and correct in all material respects as of the closing date, except to the extent such representations and warranties expressly relate to a specific date or as of the date of the merger agreement, in which case such representations and warranties must be true and correct in all material respects as of such date. Each other representation and warranty of the other party, without giving effect to any limitation as to materiality and material adverse effect or any provisions contained therein relating to preventing or materially delaying the consummation of any of the transactions contemplated by merger agreement, being true and correct as of the closing date, except to the extent such representations and warranties relate to a specific date or as of the date of the original merger agreement, in which case such representations and warranties must be true and correct as of such date, except where the failure of such representations and warranties to be so true and correct does not have and would not reasonably expected to have individually or in the aggregate with respect to all such failures a material adverse effect in such party. The other party having performed in all material respects all obligations required to be performed by it under the merger agreement. The receipt of an officer's certificate executed by an executive officer of the other party certifying that the conditions in the preceding bullet points have been satisfied, and the declaration of the special dividend by the Six Flags Board. We cannot be certain when or if the conditions to the mergers will be satisfied or waived, or that the mergers will be completed. Vote no on merging Cedar Fair and Six Flags. Vote no, investors. Stand up to merger fascism. Let's keep Six Flags, and let's keep Cedar Fair. Let's save the jobs. Let's stop the waste. But let's save the jobs and stop the merger. Stop the merger today. This is the Stop the Merger campaign for Six Flags and Cedar Fairs. Vote no on this merger resolution.